So we are beginning today, Be'ezrat Hashem. This is the fifth class on Mashiach. First of all, we're learning tonight Le'refuah Shlema, Rachel Bat Chaya, and Le'ilui Nishmat Miriam Bat Bracha. So we're continuing tonight with the fifth class in the series of Mashiach. So last week and this week is a little bit attached. You will be able to understand everything even if you didn't hear last week's, but they are connected because we were speaking about Ishmael and the exile of Ishmael, which is before the coming of Mashiach, which is where we are right now. So we ended off last week with the fact that there will never be peace. There will never be peace in the Middle East. Sounds like a rap, right? It's not going to happen, and we're going to discuss that today, why and what's the sources for the Torah for that. Also, I do have to clarify, apparently last week, brought to my attention that I said something like you have to learn about Islam. You don't have to learn about Islam. Well, the reason why we're discussing this, again, we discussed it last week, we're not here to bash Islam, we're not here to make fun of anybody, we're here to try to learn. And the purpose is to learn. We know the Chazal tell us that if we're in an exile, there's a reason why we are in a particular exile. It must be because something that we could learn, and the Chazal say because from whatever we could see from our oppressors, we can learn by their character traits, we can learn what we need to fix about ourselves. So what we're trying to do in the last class, and this class was Hashem, is try to learn about Ishmael and what are we supposed to learn about it from them. So not that we have to go and open up the Quran now and start reading it. Stick to the Torah. It's going to be more than enough for you. So to speak about peace, so we know that, especially in the liberal world, that they're very strongly trying to make peace in the Middle East. They're trying to do it, and this guy couldn't do it, so now Trump, the best businessman, the best talker, he's going to be able to do it. Obama thought he could do it. Everybody thinks that they could do it. Bill Clinton thought that he was able to do it. And they're constantly trying. And the more liberal you are, the more they don't understand why there can't be peace. So we'll discuss today what's the essence of Ishmael that there can be something of peace. So the Rambam, to start, the Rambam writes in Igeret Teiman, he says that, and this is on Tehillim, on the chapter Tehillim, chapter 120, Kuf Chaf. He says that there's no nation to Israel that is worse to Israel than Ishmael. And David HaMelech said about this in Tehillim Kuf Chaf. He says, when he speaks about the children of Kedar, the children of Kedar is, we know if you look at Bereshit, in Genesis, and you look at it in, it's right over here. It is chapter 25, verse 13. It speaks about who are the children of Ishmael. And of them is Kedar. So over here, when David HaMelech is speaking about a certain group of people, Kedar, it's referring to the child of Ishmael. And what does he say about them? He said, woe unto me, for I dwelt with the tents of Kedar. And then David HaMelech finishes the chapter of Tehillim. He says, I am for peace, but when I speak, they are for war. This is what David HaMelech wrote over 2,000 years ago. So we see over here that even if we come for peace, they're not interested in it. They might say it, but we'll soon see how it's going to actually play out. Anybody here familiar with something called the Oslo Agreement? Oslo Accords? So the Oslo Agreement was a agreement that was signed between the State of Israel and the Palestinian Liberation Organization, the PLO. This was done in September of 1993. So this was done between the Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin and the PLO chairman, which was Yasser Arafat. Right, Yamach Shemo. So and who was in between them? Who was the witness? The witness was Bill Clinton. Right, also the amazing president. You know what? Let's just continue. All right. So there was two parts of this agreement. Number one was part A, which was giving a Palestinian a self government. They are able to govern by themselves. That was part A. That was done in 1993. 1995 was a part B, which gave the expansion of the Palestinian Authority land. They basically gave land back to them. So everybody was under the impression that listen, you give them something that they want, they'll come back to you with peace. So now we're going to go and give them land. That's what Yitzhak Rabin's plan was. He wanted to give them back the land. So in turn, it will be peaceful and there will not be any more conflict. But what happened to the exact places that he gave them the lands? They ended up becoming the hotbeds of terrorists. And we see, for example, you look at Gaza. Gaza, we gave them back a big chunk. Now, what do they do to that? Instead of making it a government that Hamas took over, and not only do they not take care of their own citizens, they actually go and use all their funds to go and build missiles and build tunnels and try to, again, terrorize Israel for what? For more land. To give them more land. And we think, okay, we'll give them more. You think they're going to stop over there? They will not. And to understand why we will not, we have to learn a little bit about their history. So when they started spreading about the Islam, it didn't start off so well. It wasn't, nobody was really buying, the bait. They weren't so interested in it. He got, family and friends. But to get the whole population, they couldn't get anything. So 12 years they tried, wasn't successful. So what they did was they decided they're going to move to Medina. Medina was like the Jewish business hub back then, and they sort of tried to make Islam very similar to Judaism. And this is how we know. If you look in you shouldn't look in the Quran, but the Quran speaks about the people of the book. The people of the book is known as the Jewish people, and they try to make it very similar. And that's why you see there's a lot of similarities between Islam and Judaism. For example, the Jews, we pray 3 times a day. Islam prays 5 times a day. And by the way, they pray like before sunrise and after sunset. They have like very particular times that they pray. Additionally, something very interesting, they also wash their hands before prayer. We also wash our hands before prayer. We fast on Yom Kippur. We have actually numerous types of fasts. So they also fast on Ramadan. They what?
Taking it to the extra level.
They do. They take everything to the extra level because we pay 3 times a day. They say no, we're going to pray 5 times a day.
If you wash their hands, they wash their feet. And like their whole face.
So they go to extreme levels. So but the reason why they pray specifically 5 times a day is because our holiest day of the year is Yom Kippur. We pray 5 prayers on Yom Kippur. So because we have that, they say, your holiest day, all our days are going to be as holy as that. So they try to up everything, and we'll see. It's like a competition, like because we're better than you. It's literally like that type of situation, which we're going to soon see. But we don't eat pork. They don't eat pork. And in fact, if you look at Islam, so Islam eats halal meat. And the hechshel is like a moon. By the way, it's not kosher. A Jew cannot eat halal meat. But a Muslim is able to eat kosher meat. This is why it's very interesting that where Jews, let's say they move out to, Muslims move out into the same area. Because it's very convenient for them and it's easy for them to buy kosher food. So you look at, there's like the Coney Island section over here. The Jews moved over there. Little Pakistan moved over there. And then you have, little in the areas. Why? Because they are religious and they need to eat kosher food. And if they don't have halal, they could eat kosher food. And they don't drink blood. They have also strict guidelines. They do eat like any fish is fine. Some of them are very careful not to eat sharks or whatever, like carnivorous type of fish. But they have a much less restriction. For some reason about this, they're much less restricted than us. But they do have similar restrictions that they try to show. Listen, we're the same. We're the same. So he went. So they went over to the Jewish in Medina over there, and they said, "Listen, join us. We're like brothers. We're the same. We're cousins." So the Jews didn't buy to it. It was like, "No, we're not interested. We got our thing over here. You do your thing." And they became very, very upset with that. And they went. Not only did they not, have any treaty or a peace treaty going on with the Jews, they went against the Jews. They went against and they terrorized the Jews for not coming back. And there's you're familiar with the yellow star? That it's, if you look, it was people think that it was attributed to Germany. It was brought back way before. It was invented by the second caliph in the 9th century in Iraq to identify Jews. We walk with the yellow star to know who's a Jew and who's not a Jew. Why? Because if a Jew is walking down the street and a Muslim is walking down the same side of the street, the Jew would be required to cross the street so not to contaminate the Muslim with the Jewish filth where they're walking by. So they were very, very, and besides that, they would cause, if you didn't convert to Islam, they would force you to pay an exorbitant amount of taxes. That you have to go and do that. And by the way, this is also why they have, the what is that? The Al-Aqsa Mosque, right? It's also known as the Mosque of Omar. It was after the second Caliph Omar. He prayed at the site, and then they went and they built a mosque at that site. Why? So that they would be able to convert more Jews to Islam. So that was the whole purpose. They were trying to convert, but on Harabait.
Oh, that's what it's called?
Mm-hmm. So that's why they built that. They tried to get it. It didn't work for them. So they went and they tried to spread Islam, and Islam wasn't as popular. So they started going by force. And what happened was that while they were in Medina, they were trying to capture the town of Mecca, the country, the area of Mecca. So, but they weren't able to. So they decided that they're going to make a treaty. They made a treaty with the Meccans would be the right terminology, with the Meccans and the Muslims back then. They made a treaty for 10 years. Not going to do it. Not going to do anything. We'll have peace, because they kept on trying to fight. They couldn't win it. So the peace treaty for 10 years. 2 years went by, and they used this time to build their army. The Ishmaelim used this time to build their army. Once they had their army built enough, they went and they attacked Mecca, and they got it within like 24 hours. They captured everything because they had a treaty. So even the origins of Ishmael, of this, was an origin of falsehood, which means that you cannot trust anything that they sign, because anything that they sign means nothing. Just look, and the proof of this is, so the treaty that this was called the Treaty of Quraysh, or something along those lines. So when Yasser Arafat went and he shook his hands of Yitzhak Rabin, all the Egyptian and the Jordanian media went and asked him. It says, "How do you shake the hand with the devil himself? You shake the hands with the filth of the filth. How dare you go and make agreements with the Jews?" So Yasser Arafat answered something that went over everybody's head except for the Islam. Islam understood exactly. He said, "Remember Hudaybiyah, whatever, something along those lines." And everybody else was like, "What do you say?" "Well, I don't know, Hudaybiyah, something." Like, "All right, whatever." All the entire Islam be like, "Oh, we got to be talking about. What does that mean, Hudaybiyah?" Hudaybiyah means, remember, we're signing the treaty. You know why we're signing the treaty? Just so we can build up with our own, just like they did it back then. The origin of Islam started off with what? Started off with we'll sign a treaty until we're ready to fight, and then we won't tell you, we'll fight you. So the same thing happened to Yasser Arafat. Now everybody realized exactly what he was doing. That's why a few short years later, what happened? The Intifada came out, headed by who? Yasser Arafat. He went and this was all a ploy. It was all a ploy to either buy time, get some supplies, get some land, and then when he's powerful enough, he's going to go and he's going to fight them. This is why we started. We said in the last class, we said that Pirkei Rabbi Eliezer, he said that there's 15 things that Ishmael is going to do to the Jews before Mashiach comes. And of those things, we said the paper and the quill will shrivel, which means it's not going to be worth it. If they sign a peace treaty, the paper is not worth, it's worth zilch, it's worth nothing. It's not worth, because how do you trust somebody that their origin says that they could just, renege whenever they want? It's like, how do you that's impossible to make peace and with that. So, and it's interesting because still, somehow, you have it that they believe in the Torah, the people of the book. They believe in that, but at the same time, it says in the Torah straight out that the Israel belongs to who? It belongs to the Jewish people. But yet they read the Torah, or whatever it is, or whatever part they read. But yet they say, no, Israel belongs to us. Somehow that whole thing got skipped over. To answer that was the essence that we spoke about last week was Ishmael. Ishmael, he's going to decide to hear whatever he wants to hear. Yishma. Hear, which is the word here, kel God, which means God will hear me. Whatever I say is law. So this, you would think that, you could see that there's no way to do peace. So if you want to say, okay, fine, overall, it's a peaceful, they always state it's a very peaceful religion. It's a peaceful, Islam is being mistaken by the radicals of Islam. Rather, it's really a peaceful religion. So a rough estimate, as of the year 1924, there was 217 million people were killed by Islam since its origin. Peaceful, I don't know. And back then, they didn't have, there was no, these technologically advanced bombs. It was by the sword. So by 1924, you had roughly estimate of 217 million people died for the sake of a peaceful religion. Hard to believe. But let's say, okay, you want to still say that it's peaceful. And it's only the radicals, the radicals, Islams, that's who we have to worry about. By the way, I'm not saying that there's no good Islam. There's no good Islamic people. Not at all. Chas v'shalom. I'm sure a majority of them are good. I'm sure. And by the way, they preach monotheism, which is something that we look up to because the whole point is to spread God's name throughout the entire world. Islam, and it's a little bit, roundabout way, is spreading out monotheistic values as opposed to Christianity, which spreads a value of a trinity, which is Avodah Zarah. So, but at the same point in time, so you say, listen, the majority is peaceful. It's a peaceful religion. So we're talking about, you have roughly 1.8 billion Muslims in the world. It's estimated that you're talking about between 15 to 25% of radical Islam. So not 50%, 15, but you know what 15 to 25% of 1.8 billion is? That's between 180 to 300 million people that are radical. You know how much Jewish nation we have? We have about 14 million Jews. So you're talking somewhere between 10 to 20 times the amount of Jews that we have in the world that's how many more radical Islams there are over there. So don't worry about it, it's just the radicals. So that the radicals can eat us, 10 to 20 times more than what we exist. So let's say, even if you don't want to worry about it. So let's look at Palestine for a little bit. Let's look at, so Palestine, you think, okay, listen, maybe some of them do want peace. They have, since it's founded, they came out with 700 textbooks. And not one textbook has the term peace appears there. It doesn't, the word doesn't appear in their vocabulary. So, and besides that, if you see the Palestinian media, this is years ago, somebody once sent me a cartoon that they watched that they show to the little kids, and in it, it's like a song. It's like the cartoon is like bubbly. You've seen this? The cartoon is very bubbly. You see like a guy walking, and it's like, the music is like, like the Sesame Street, very nice, like Baby Einstein type of music. And they're singing, and if you see the Jew, and then you gotta kill it, and you will be a shahid, whatever. I'm making the tune up, So this is what they're preaching to the little kids. This is what they're teaching to the little kids.
He says this in all his speeches. If you listen to any of his speeches, he talks about
Who?
The prime minister. I don't know.
Oh, from the. I wouldn't be surprised. They preach this. The graduation. The IDF came out. I think I spoke about this last week. I don't remember if I did. I apologize for repeating it. But the IDF came out with a video that they found from Palestine that they show the kindergarten graduation, where you see little kids, have these fake, I hope it's fake, ammunition with like bulletproof vests, and they're walking. And you see a little chassid, one of the Palestinian kids dressed up as a chassid, so he has like pigtails, things supposed to be payas, and like a little hat, maybe like a fake tzitzit. And what do they come? They come with the guns and they push them on the ground and they jump over them. It's like literally they're preparing for war as a kindergarten.
I once saw a cartoon that they had for the kids, and it was like their version of Mickey Mouse, who was like dancing happy like that song, and then he's like, all right kids, and now we kill a Jew, and they're literally like stabbing.
And this is what you're training to. By the way, little kids are their brains are like, they absorb everything. They're like a sponge. So if you're teaching this to little kids now, right, think about it. With the terrorists that we have now didn't have this growing up. They were terrorists. They'll say back in the day, our terrorists, we had to work by the book. Over here, they're training everybody so it's only going to get worse. It's not going to get any better. It's not people are fooling themselves. Think they'll go, no, it's going to be better. We're going to train them. We're going to the liberals. What do they think they do? Okay, let's educate them. We'll give them some money. We'll give them some education. And then they're going to be civilized. They're not going to be radical. There was recently 2 doctors got arrested. I don't remember which country this was in, because they tried to blow up the hospital that they worked in. Islamic doctors. So you're talking about people that are well-educated, lawyers, doctors that are they're fighting with ISIS, they're going and they're blowing themselves up, they're killing other people for the name of Allah, for the name of being a shaheed, for the name of being a martyr. This is something that you cannot fight, and until we realize that, it's going to keep on happening.
What's their logic in blowing people up in the name of Islam? Shouldn't they be trying to convert them in the name of Islam?
So it's something very interesting, and we'll speak about it soon. Rabbi Vital says that at the end of the days, they're not even going to be interested in converting. They just want them out of the picture. Which Rabbi Vital said about 400 years ago. So and even furthermore, what they do is that there was videos that were going after September 11th. What they used to do is that they were celebrating. Palestinians were celebrating, and they were celebrating even in New Jersey. They give out candy to kids. And they're blowing, the little, whatever you call those things, and they're celebrating and they're praising their God that the Twin Towers was destroyed. And what even happens even more so, if somebody becomes a martyr, if somebody goes and blows a suicide bomber, what they do is that they make portraits of these people, and they put like Islamic verses from the Quran in them, and then they post them on buildings. So they idolize these people. So now, why shouldn't they do it? These are what kids are taught. This is how they're going to end up becoming. Tehillim chapter 118, verse 12, it says, David HaMelech is saying, "V'yirdefu etchem kasher ta'asena hadvorim." They will pursue you like bees, right? They will pursue. What does that mean, like bees? Explains Rashi. Like when a bee stings you, it dies. So it explains. This is something amazing. Rabbi Yitzchak Zev Soloveitchik, the Brisker Rav, he explained after World War II. He said that they will come, that Bnei Ishmael, they will rise up and they will sacrifice themselves like bees. They'll kill themselves like bees, and it says something very interesting. It says the numerical value, gematria, of Hadivorim is the same numerical value as Ben Hagar. Whoa. So bees is the same thing, because just like bees, when they sting you, they'll hurt one person, but they'll die themselves. So too Ishmael, they don't care. If they're going to die, that's fine with them, as long as they get somebody along with them. So with all these problems, and they actually go into details. What does it mean to be praised? You know, they say if you blow yourself up, that's one of the top levels of paradise that you're going to go to. And they go, generally this is referred to as for men. And they go to explicit detail on what the pleasures that you are going to get, up there, which is, it's so disturbing how detailed they get into it that I can't even go, just from nivul peh, you can't even say these things, you can't even read these things, how explicit they go. It's disgusting. And this is their sole purpose in life, is, there was I don't know what you call it, an imam, the head priest, whatever, one of the preachers. So he goes like this, and he says, he's preaching, and you see, I saw this clip of a video, and you see like, it pans out, and you see like little kids playing, everyone's sitting on the magic carpets, and they're, the shoes in the back, and they're over there, and he's preaching on this like, pedestal over there with a little microphone, and you see little kids like walking around, and he's there, what is he preaching? He says, when you get to heaven, he says, for every wife that you have, you get 70 virgins. And then he stops everything, may Allah save you. 70 virgins. Right? And then he says, but you're allowed to marry up to 4 women at one time, according to Islamic law. So it says, for every woman, every wife that you have here, 70 virgins up there. And so they marry a lot. They marry a lot. And
wait, 4 at a time or 4 at the same day?
4 at a we don't have to go to the halachot of Islam. It's interesting. You know how they divorce? They divorce by saying you're divorced, 3 times. That's it. The man says you're divorced, and it says yalla, out of my house, and that's it. But it's interesting, while we're speaking about their halachot over here, that you know how much a woman that commits whatever, becomes a shaheed, you know how much men she get? 1.
Oh my God.
Yeah, 1. All right, but that's I'm not asking questions on there. Okay, but in any case, we see over here what we see over here. And by the way, if you say that the Quran has over 160 verses that calls for murder and jihad, so when they say that it's a peaceful religion, maybe I'm mistaken from it. Maybe statistics are mistaken by it. Maybe the media is mistaken by it. But it doesn't look so peaceful. Granted, I'm not saying that they're not peaceful people amongst them. But overall, you cannot make peace with somebody that A, doesn't want peace, that B, wants you dead, that C, you can't even trust anything that they say regarding the peace. So even the head of the Hezbollah, they were made big meetings. So they couldn't understand why that God gave them this infection of a Jewish state right amongst all the Islamic territories. So he came up and he says, no. He says, listen, this works. This is the conclusion that they came out is God sent them to us over here. Why? Because in order to make it easier for us to destroy them, Hitler, and this is what he says Hitler was unsuccessful because of the Jews' dispersion. But he says Allah, he's going and he's gathering everybody for us so we can go and can finish them one and for all. Right? So all the liberal people, I doubt liberal people listen to, but if they do listen to Shia Torah, get out of, take the helmet, whatever it is that you're living in the shell, and get out and realize that there is not going to be peace with them. And this exile is going to be until the end of days. It says that, the Torah says that when Abraham was making a feast, when Yitzchak was weaned, so the Sarah saw the son of Hagar, which was Ishmael, he was mitzachek, he was mocking. What does that mean that he was mocking? He was making fun. He says, Yitzchak is not, is not Abraham's son. He's Abimelech's son. He's Paro's, because what happened was that she got taken away from one night, Sarah. So he said, his mother was, 90 at the time. What, she's going to give birth to a son? It's not. Abraham was 100. He says, not possible. He says, not possible. He says, rather, he is Abimelech. Why was he saying this? Why was Ishmael trying to push away the fact that Yitzchak was the son of Abraham? Because that if Abraham and is not related to Yitzchak, that means he has no say in his inheritance. And he knew that God promised him to have Israel. So Ishmael was already planting the seed over here. He said, no. He says he started mitzachek. He was starting making fun. He said, there's no way that he is my half brother. So but the Chazal actually tell us that Ishmael actually did tshuva before. He did tshuva before he died. We see this in Genesis chapter 25 verse 9. It says that when they went to bury Abraham, Ishmael allowed Yitzchak to go ahead of him. Which means is when they went to bury him. Which means is here he already gave he already showed to be like, listen, this is already proof that he agrees that it must be that Yitzchak is part of the family and he does get the inheritance.
It says that Ishmael made tshuva then.
He did make tshuva then. Yeah. So Quran does believe in the Torah, but they switch some things around. One of the things that they switch around is who got sacrificed, which means, as you know, that Yitzchak was put on an altar, and he was going to get sacrificed, but according to the Quran, it wasn't Yitzchak, it was Ishmael. The question is why particularly they pick this as the sacrifice as part of the part that they're going to change. So if you look at the part where Abraham got tested in Genesis chapter 22 verse 1, it says after these things, then it says that God told him, listen, Abraham, I want you to take your son, your only son, your favorite son, Yitzchak, I want you to take him, I want you to slaughter him on the altar. But the part that I want to focus was after these things. What things are we referring to over here? So there was sort of a boasting, going back and forth between Yitzchak and Ishmael. Yitzchak, Ishmael was boasting. He was saying, listen, you got circumcised on the 8th day. I got circumcised when I was 13 years old. You couldn't have fought it off. I was able to fight it off. So Yitzchak goes back to him and is like, oh, you're telling me about one organ? He says, if God will tell me to sacrifice everything, I would sacrifice my whole entire life. So now that he opened it up, now Kadosh Baruch Hu says, after this, he says, now take your son, your only son, take him and go sacrifice him. After Yitzchak said this. So in this came a big problem, because Yitzchak went willingly to sacrifice for Ishmael. But what was the problem? The problem is that Ishmael is the one who says, no, I'm the one who does the bigger sacrifice. So they went and they switched everything around to show that they are the one who gets the bigger sacrifice. And we see also that Sarah wanted to send Ishmael away. Why did he want to send Ishmael away? To sort of show that he has no part of your inheritance. So what did God say? God said, listen to your wife Sarah and send him away. And they went, and Abraham went and he sent Ishmael away. This is while everyone was still alive. They sent him away to show him that he has no part of the inheritance of Abraham. Now, we have to still find out that Ishmael still has a merit. We see that they have the land. They had the land for many years, and they had the ability to get a lot. Where did they get this merit from? They even called Adam, and they even have the name of God amongst in their name. So the Zohar says that the merit that they have is actually that they perform the Brit Milah. Because they perform the Brit Milah at the age of 13, which is very, very tough. They perform the Brit Milah over there, but the problem is that they only perform partially. They don't do the Priyah part. So they only do a partial part of the Brit Milah, and hence being that their Brit, the way the Kabbalah explains it, it's empty. It's done, but it's done with empty. There's no essence to it. So because of that, they will only live in Eretz Yisrael when it's empty. And this is the same idea. The Zohar says that when the Jews are sent to exile, the land is going to be empty, just like the Ishmaelim. The circumcision is going to be empty. They're going to dwell in the land when it's empty as well. So that's where they're going to dwell in that land. And we see they did. And the Zohar says, by the way, when the time comes for them to leave, they're not going to want to leave. They're going to make it very difficult for us to get it back. And this, Rabbi Baruch Abu Chatzera, he was the son of the Baba Sali, he explains, he quotes from the Zohar. The Zohar, there was Reb Shimon Bar Yochai says, and that there was a ministering angel of Ishmael. He came over to God and said, God, listen, every good deed gets a reward, right? So yeah, of course. Says Ishmael went, and he got circumcised not by 8 days old, but when 13 years old. So he has to also get a reward. So says, Rabbi Baruch Abu Chatzera says, yes, he is going to get a reward. Where is this reward going to be? For every year that he is going to get 100 years of the land of Israel. So that gives a total of 1,300 years. And you look at the math of when, Islam started, to when they actually got control of the land, to when they have actual, to where we are nowadays, the 1,300 years is just about up. The 1,300 years is just about up. So we see this is really going to be the end of the line. But there's another reason why he has a merit. And what the other reason is Hashem told Sarah that she's going to have a child, and told Abraham also. And Abraham said, "Listen," he says. Oh, I thought that was mine. So Abraham says, "Listen, I'm 100. My wife is 90. We're going to have a child now." He said, "If only that Ishmael would live before you." We have already a son. And the words that he uses, "Lu Ishmael yichya lefnecha." He says, we have over here a child over here. Let's use over here. We're old with this. So because of that, prayer that Abraham did, Ishmael got a part to the land, and so he also has a part to the land because of that. So now we have a question we have to ask. So we see we have control of Israel, but Ishmael plays a very, very strong role in it. So how is it possible? If we have where's still the struggle over here? So the answer is that even though you're right, we do have the land, but the land is not being ruled by religious faith. It's ruled by people that are completely secular. They actually brought communism to Israel, and they brought that mentality of a completely secular mentality. So even though we have so many Shabbat, but it's still not ruled the kosher way. And there's another very, very interesting, and people that come from Islamic backgrounds can attest to this, that there's another very interesting merit that Ishmael has, and that is Hachnasat Ochim. That is accepting guests. So we know that when Ishmael was sent out, so Abraham just didn't leave him. He actually went to visit him. There's a midrash that says it. The Pirkei de Rabbi brings it down, and he says that first Ishmael married a woman from Moab, and I think about 3 years passed by, and Abraham went to visit. He went to visit his son Ishmael in the desert, and he goes to visit him, but he saw that Ishmael and Hagar were not there. They went out to the field. So who told him this? One of his his wife, which was from Moab, told him. He said, "Listen, Ishmael and Hagar went to the fields to collect dates." So Abraham said, okay. He says, can I have, I just traveled from the desert, can I have please some bread and water? So she denied. She says, no, you can't have, but we don't have it, whatever it is. She denied it. So Abraham said, listen, okay, no problem. He says, do me a favor, when your husband comes, he didn't say who he was. He says, when your husband comes home, just tell them an old man from Canaan came over here, and tell him that the threshold of his house is no good. Alluding to the fact that his wife is no good. So she's like, all right, weird thing to say, but all right. So she goes over, Ishmael comes up, hey, listen, there was an old man from Canaan, he came over here, and he said the threshold from your house is no good. And he's like, oh really? Divorce. I don't know if it was back then, but he just divorced her. He divorced her, and then Hagar went and he found her another wife from her family. And this time, I think her name was Petuma. And this time, Abraham came again to visit, and again, he wasn't Ishmael and Hagar weren't home. He says, where are they? He says, they're grazing their camels out in the fields. So he says, okay, can I please have some bread and water? I've been traveling in the desert. And she said, sure. And she went and she gave him, all that he asked for the food. So then when Abraham went and prayed, he prayed for the house of Ishmael to be blessed. Right, with all kinds of blessing. So now, when Ishmael came back and he heard, first of all, even though he didn't see his father, but his father came twice, he saw that his father still had concern for him. He still cared about him. So, explains from this incident, explains Rav David Luria, the Radal, and he says that the reason why. What was the reason that Ishmael went and he divorced? Is it because he realized that his father was for some reason not upset about the way that she acted? Why? Because we know Abraham, his essence was chesed. His essence, his tent was open up in all four directions. Anybody could come into his tent. He had an open door policy. Anybody could come in. You didn't have to pay for any of the food. All you have to do was thank God afterwards. You have to, he gave a little lecture. He thanked God. He preached the monotheism, and that's all he asked for. So he had a very open door. That was his essence. His essence was chesed. When he saw his son and they weren't doing it, he says, "You're not going to have blessing over here." He said, what happened? When she went and he saw that she did give him, and she was open to Achnasat Ochim, then they got the blessing. So we see till nowadays, Islam, or anybody from the Islamic countries, they welcome guests tremendously, like more than anybody else. We something that you could actually learn from. And even there's actually laws. If you go look, don't go look, but just trust me. Islam has laws on how to treat your guests. And they even bring on their prophet that says that if a guest came, he would give him his cushion. Even if he only had one, he would give him these things. And they would welcome them. And they say, even if the guest comes uninvited, even if he comes uninvited, you don't want him. You go and you have to treat him very nicely or her very nicely, and you welcome it and you give them food. And then, they're very careful because they say, some people are more strict on certain, hachsharim in the Muslim world. Some people don't eat shark, like we said before. So you have to be careful what you give them. Make sure that you give them. That's why they said it's always safe. You could always go with something vegetarian. And that's why hummus became very popular. It's a vegetarian thing. You could dip that with, it's a very easy dish to give that everybody will say that it's okay for the Islam to. So they're very pro chesed. So again, this is a merit for them. They're doing chesed. So again, this is also a merit that comes into their hand. So now we have to try to understand what is the purpose. What is the bottom line purpose of Ishmael in the end of days? So right now it's very unfortunate the way that the world is going is we rely on our own powers. We do. We rely. The Western world relies on it. Israel. We all rely on our own powers, right? The pasuk is "Kochem va'otzi yadi asali etachal." You go to a businessman. He'll be like, "How are you so successful?" It's like, I'm a businessman. You saw how I talk. He says, "I could sell anything." And he says, "I could sell you your own house again." So you say, where do they attribute their success to themselves? It's all it's all this, it's all me. You know why we're so successful? We have the strongest army, and we have the best air force, and we have the best naval. Everything is we. It's comes Ishmael. He says, all right, you think you're so good with all your technology? With all the technology that we have, we spoke about it last week, you could have little Omar and little Muhammad sitting in the basement and building a pipe bomb, and then they could go and kill 30 people. They could go and buy a gun and destroy it. Where's technology? Where's your best Air Force? Where's all this stuff? It's useless. So while we're thinking, that everything is all about us, Ishmael is reminding us, you could have all the technology you want. If something's going to get done, something's going to get done. They're restoring the faith that we are supposed to have to God, the emunah and bitachon that we are supposed to have to God. They're making us reminded by hook or by crook. And this is why we said Ishmael, his name is Ishmael because he will hear, right? And we said that his name is going to be in the future, he will hear in the future. What will he hear? We know the pasuk in Bereshit, Genesis, chapter 27, verse 22, says, Hakol kol Yaakov vayadayim idei Esav. What do we list? What Hakol? God's waiting for the prayer. The prayer, you know what Ishmael is going to do at the end of the days? He's going to make it that Akol Kol Yaakov. He's going to hear the prayer of Yaakov because he's going to make you forget about everything that you own. Everything that you have is going to be useless. It's not going to help. And this is what we see. We spoke about this in class number 2 and class number 3 of Mashiach, the Gemara in Sotah, page 49, that said, all these things that would happen at the end of the days. The audacity is going to increase, the truth is going to be absent, the young will insult the old, and then at the end, what does it end off? We have no one to rely on, only our Father in heaven. So, we see over here that we have two options of doing it. At the end of the day, we're going to rely only on God. There's two options. Either we're going to do it ourselves, or Ishmael is going to help us to do that. And what you realize, when do people start having faith? When they start losing their business, when the marriage starts not working, when the health starts going. That's when they start opening up and say, okay, God, please, can you help me? Once everything is going fine, they're fine. That's why in rich communities, you don't see that they're not so religious. Any religion, you go to Islam, Christianity, Saudi Arabia, for example, they're not as strict as everybody everywhere else. You go to, even in the Jewish, unfortunately, the Jewish world, they're the really, really religious, really, really wealthy. And I'm not saying as a blanket statement, but overall are not as religious. And the Christian world also, you go to like the poor towns of in Mexico, where they're most strongly religious, where they're really poor. You have a church in every corner. Right? You have everything in every corner. Why? Because they feel like now they need it. So there's two ways to go through this at the end of the days. Either we do it ourselves and we say, listen, we don't need Ishmael. We get the point already. Go deal with your thing. We'll deal with our faith on our own. And then we'll get to at the end without having to deal with Ishmael. Or if not, then Ishmael is going to remind us. And they're going to remind us that without your technology, without all your advanced military, without everything, we can still get you. And they can. And look, just look what's going on. So the Rabbi Chaim Friedlander, he says in Sifsei Chaim, he brings down, he says also that, you shouldn't think in a negative aspect. Like, we have no one, usually where does it end off? We have no one to rely on, only on God. Okay, fine. He says, no, it's supposed to be a positive aspect. We're supposed to strive for that. It's telling you where to go, what to achieve, and this way we will be able to avert all the horrible things that come in the end of days. So, he says, besides being, believing in our kochev yotzem yadi, my own power, you also have to worry about, don't think that you have the spiritual, a lot of people think, okay, I'm a big tzaddik. I keep Shabbat, I keep Tzniut, I keep Kasher, I keep this. I'm a good guy, I'm going to be saved at the end of the days. Don't rely on your own merit. The only thing that we have to rely on at the end of the day is God's mercy. Because who knows? You really think that you're good? You really think that you're really as good as it? And this is what we spoke about. We spoke about heavily last week. What does Ishmael do? Ishmael fools himself. We spoke about this, but it's a good point to bring up again. Because this is one of the most important points that I feel that should be taken out from the exile of Ishmael. They think they're always right. They'll blow up the thing. Yeah, Allah Akbar. They'll do this. Allah Akbar this. Allah Akbar. Everything that they decide, they're gonna. When they're saying that means that they will never think that they're doing anything wrong. They go on. They blow up a bus full of kids. What do they scream before that? Praise be God. God be strong. Whatever. Allah Akbar. They praise God, which means is that everything that they're doing it for God. Somebody who always thinks they're doing the right thing will never change. This is the problem with Mabul. This is the problem with Sodom. This is the problem with everybody that got destroyed because there was no hope left for them. There was no hope. And unfortunately, this is something we have to learn because there are many people that we're dealing with that think they're okay. Like, no, right now where I am spiritually, I'm solid. If I stay over here, I'm good. Don't fool yourself into that. If you always think that you're good where you are spiritually, then you're done. You're finished already. You should always achieve to go more. You ask any businessman, says, are you good where you're right now? And generally, the common thing is, let's say you made a few $1 billion already. Why go on Shark Tank? Why bother with all that? Go, non-Jewish world. Go enjoy the rest of your life. Go on vacations. Go on your 250-foot yacht and go travel by an island. Do whatever you want. Why they continue working? No. Because business is that we keep on going to fight. We're never satisfied. We keep on going, and keep on going. That's how you should feel spiritually. You should never be satisfied. You should never say, no, I'm good right now. You should always strive for growth. Because if you don't strive for growth, you're stopping right here, right now, and that means that you're sinking. So a person should never feel that they're good, regardless of it. It could be in tzniut, it could be in kosher, it could be in learning. Whatever it is, don't think that you learn enough. There's no such thing as you learn. You could always learn more. You could always gain more. So the Gemara tells us in Sanhedrin, page 97, says that if the Jewish people repent on their own, good. But if not, it says something very scary. It says that God will raise a king over them whose decrees are as harsh as Haman. Haman wanted to destroy all Jews. In one day, he was the worst decree possible, even worse than Hitler. Hitler, even though Hitler was more successful than Haman, but Haman wanted to destroy everybody in one day. All Jews, men, women, children, in the entire world, destroy them on one day. At the end of days, if we don't wake up, then God's going to send us a reminder with somebody as strict and as severe as Haman. So we definitely don't want that. Say no, thank you to that, please. So. There's something else that I want to go on with, besides going on Ishmael. I'll see if we have time to breach a little bit up on Edom. The Bilam, the non-Jewish prophet in the time of the Torah, Moshe Rabbeinu, he gave a prophecy of the end of days. He said the non-Jewish prophet gave a prophecy at the end of days. You want to look it up? It's in Bamidbar Numbers, chapter 24, verse 14. He says, after he went and he tried to, curse them, he couldn't curse them. He says, come. He says, Bilam goes to Balak and says, I'm going to go back to my people, but let me tell you what's going to happen, what these people are going to do to your people at the end of days. So he revealed some things that would happen at the end of the days, but he also told him a trick. He said, listen, I wasn't able to curse them, but he says, you could do something to destroy the Jews. You know what you could do? He says, get them in immorality. And this is where Moab, if you know the history of the in the Torah, they went and they enticed Jewish people to sin with them. And they caused 24,000 people to die in a plague because of that. And Moab went and they put out their women over there, and the men sinned with the women because of that. So the Chazal, the Chachamim ask, says, why is the proximity, why is it so close, the end of days prophecy that Balaam gave, to the advice that he gave for the immorality? And the answer is because this is what's going to happen at the end of days. The Orach Chaim says at the end of days, we're going to fall to the lowest level of Tumah. At the end of days, there's going to be a very, very, very strong test, and that's going to be a test in immorality. And it says that's why the proximity was very close. And we see over here, nowadays, we are in an immoral, not only a society or a generation, the entire world is in a place that it was never like this before.
Not even during Mitzrayim?
In Mitzrayim, just because you have this. They didn't have this. They didn't have, how much problems caused because of this, sins that happened because of this. You know how many people, they didn't have, pictures that women could take of themselves and send to everybody. They didn't have that ability to do that. They didn't have ability to put videos. They didn't have it, and what do you have with this connectivity? You could find, it's so easier for, people to do so many sins. I'm not talking about just in the privacy of their own home, also to go out. The introduction.
Wasn't it similar? I don't know.
It was very bad. Don't get me wrong. But what we have nowadays is something that they never had before.
So are we more impure than them?
It says that we're going to go. Yeah, it's going to be even more impure.
So
there
So how's Hashem gonna rescue us and all that jazz?
We have two options. Either we're going to do tshuva, or it's going to become the end of the day. And then if we do tshuva, then the Mashiach is going to come in a very miraculous way. If not, then it's going to become in a very harsh way. And we're going to speak about, when we speak about Gog and Magog, how the war is going to be, the final war, aka, people like to call it World War III, how it's going to be at the end of the days. There's two options how it's going to play out. And we're going to, B'ezrat Hashem, speak about them. So, but we see over here something very interesting. Besides the fact that we are true in a very, very immoral state, there's something very interesting on the way Islam is also playing into this. A while back, somebody in an Islamic country, they did a mixed wedding, mixed dancing. So we know Jews, we're not allowed to. What happens? So when the rabbi is there, there's trees in the middle as a mechitza. The second that the rabbi leaves, they're like, all right, things come off. The DJ comes out, he puts on his headphones, and he's seizuring on the thing over here, and everybody is going over here, and then the non-Jewish music comes up, and then the strobe lights come down, and the smoke comes up, and then mamash, Sodom v'Amorah that goes on in the weddings. So this is what happened to in an Islamic country. You know what they did? They did a drive-by. Not a drive-by with oh my God, I can't believe it. They did a drive-by with machine guns, and they murdered everybody in the area. That's how strict that Islam is. If you mess with them in the religion, the tzniut over there, you see what they wear. What is it called? The hijab. The hijab, right? We can only see the eyes, right? So they're so strict in this that if you mess around, it's death. It's death penalty. And they don't go and they'll be like, listen, we're going to warn you this time. But next time, either find a different mosque to pray in. No, they don't do that. It'll be like, you don't listen, death. So we see over here that at the end of the days, it's so immoral. But then again, we could see, and again, we're not learning from Ishmaelim, but we could see how strong we have to be in the morality. How strong. And again, we're not supposed to wear the covering over here. You're supposed to cover the dress the way that the rabbis tell us. But at the same point in time, we could see how zealous they are. That where are we? Unfortunately, we have to go and learn from that. What?
For us, the girls have to sit like through millions nude classes, like just to wear a skirt. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly. And over there, it's if you don't wear that, you'll get your throat slit, and you'll be hanging on the front porch for a while, so everybody else could see. So it is something that we could see over here, and it's something very interesting. The Kaveh Yashar, chapter 82. Amazing stuff. I always recommend people to buy. They have it in English. Kaveh Yashar. It's amazing. It's a 2-volume in very, very mystical, and it has a lot of Musar in it. It's unbelievable. So if you like mystical stuff and Musar, Kaveh Yashar is the way to go. So Kaveh Yashar, chapter 82, says something amazing. It says something. You know what was the merit that we were redeemed in Egypt? The merit that we were redeemed in Egypt was due to the merit of the righteous woman. And it says the Kaveh Yashar, in the end of days, the reason why we are going to be redeemed at the end of days is because of the righteous woman. And we know one of the main focuses of a woman, the main thing, the main bracha, the main blessing that she has is in her modesty. And we see over here, right over here, at the end of days, we could see exactly what it is. This is where blessing comes. We know blessing comes in the house because of woman's modesty. Blessing comes in everything because of modesty. If we have a few more minutes, do we have a few more minutes? I want to finish off with Edom. We would speak a little bit about Edom because we spoke a lot about Ishmael, so let's speak a little bit about Edom. First of all, who is Edom? Edom, it tells us in that the Esav had, so there was somebody by the name of Tzafo, who was the son of Eliphaz, the son of Esav. He founded the city of Rome, right? He was the king of Italia. He was the king of Italy. And the civilization that was founded from Rome was an extension of all of Esav. And we know, the Malbim brings down in Ovadah, chapter 1, verse 1, he says that all nations that eventually accept Christianity, religion, are understood to be part of Edom. So they are part of Edom. And we know that there is going to be a final exile. The final exile is going to be of Ishmael, which we are speaking of right now, and Edom. It's going to be both of them. It's going to be Ishmael and Edom. So he says, let's try to learn a little bit for the next 2-3 minutes on the exile of Edom. What's the exile of Edom? So we spoke about Ishmael. What are we able to learn from, again, not from Islam, not from reading the Quran, but rather from the character traits? What are we able to learn about ourselves and change about ourselves? Explains Rav Dessler. And he says that what happened was, by the time of the destruction of the second temple, was the arrogance spread throughout the entire Klal Yisrael, arrogance. And because the Gemara says that the measure was filled, so because of that, the Bet HaMikdash was destroyed. Who was it destroyed by? By Edom. It was destroyed by Edom, by Rome. So, and it's very interesting because Rome, they are known for the arrogance, for the pride and the arrogance is Edom, is the Western world as we know it today. And this is why the Chachamim say in Sotah that at the end of the days, chutzpah, audacity would be increased. What's audacity comes from? It stems from arrogance, it stems from pride. So Rav Dessler says that since the destruction, the pride has been an increase. And where does the pride come from? It comes from our technologically advanced, we're so advanced right now, and we take pride in it. And we even though that this helps us and makes us more selfish, that you think, we would have more time on our hands. Now the fact that we have all these, we have a vacuum that can vacuum yourself. You have a dishwasher, you have a washing machine. So we have so much more time to be more productive. What do we do with our time? 4 hours a night on the TV. Or whatever it is, now even, just as bad is 4 hours, I shouldn't even say 4 hours, because it's usually not under 6 hours. You're lost in the world of Facebook, Instagram, or the other social media. You're in there, I'm telling you, people don't realize how much time goes by. Before they go to sleep, it's just 3 hours. They're just stalking people and be oh, wait, what? She changed, and then you're red threads are going everywhere, wait a minute. I think she's dating somebody else right now. I don't remember this over here. You're going over here. You're wasting your life. When you have all this technology. So what happens? It adds to our pride, to our arrogance. And even Eretz Yisrael. You know why we think we have Eretz Yisrael? What do you mean? We have one of the strongest Air Force. We have one of the ability that we have we're nuclear. How many nations could say that they're nuclear? We have so much technologically advanced. That's why. So no. So that's why we're attributing everything to our pride and our arrogance. So explains Rav Dessler, it says the more that we realize our final test, the more that we realize that we have only one person to rely on. The only person that we have rely on, the only entity that we have to rely on is only on God. And this he explains about Odessa something amazing. He said 50 years ago, he says that Edom is going to be destroyed by Edom itself. It's something very interesting. Like, what does that mean? It says that through all their technological advancements, that's how they're going to get destroyed. And we see this. You just look at September 11th. Who built the airplanes? Who was flying the airplanes? Who fueled the airplanes? Americans. Who ended up getting... So the Islam went, and they used their own power, America's own power, against itself. They use their own planes. They use their own fuel against their own buildings. Edom will destroy Edom by Edom what's in its house. So we take this our pride. We're able to go and fly on literally, you're flying on a missile from one part of the world to another part of the world without a hitch. And you're able to go, and we're able to build skyscrapers and be like, look at this. And this was the city skyline. If you took a picture of New York, it was the Twin Towers. And it looks different now. If you remember back then, you had those. People that would paint in the street with spray paint, so they would do that. It's always Twin Towers and everything. Twin Towers on the moon, Twin Towers on the sun, Twin Towers and everything. Yeah, Twin Towers everywhere. That was the essence of America, the New York City, the financial capital of the world. The essence is look what we can build. Look at this. 2 Twin Towers, the second same. What are they going to do? Ishmael is going to come with a few box cutters, a few things like that, and they're going to take it down with your own technology. So we see over here that really at the end of the days we have no one to rely on other than on God. And the quicker that we realize this, the less problems that we are going to have to go to. One of the main things that you have to take from this part of the shiurim is you have to enhance your faith. Emunah plays such an important role. We know that God is going to reveal Mashiach in a very miraculous way. But God doesn't reveal it in a miraculous way unless people are actually believe in it. They have to have faith in it. They have to have, there was a famous story in the Gemara. There was somebody who, had vinegar. And he tried to, the daughter put the candles to light for vinegar. So she was getting all nervous. She was crying, I have vinegar here instead of oil. So the rabbi, her father, says, what are you worried about? Says, the God that said that oil should light, he will say vinegar should light also. So she lit the vinegar and it lit just like oil. Because he had such faith that everything made sense for him. The more faith, by the way, the more faith that you have, the more miracles that happen to you. Because you don't see it as a miracle. They're like, what do you mean? God could do this, God could do that. What's the difference? How am I going to do it? God could get, you need parnasah. God's going to be able to give. I'll share a story though. I heard this story from Rabbi Mizrahi. He said once there was a guy in yeshiva, and this guy, Bal Tshuva have an extra level of, they're able to have faith. They're able to do everything on a much higher level because they're coming from zero to nothing. They're more fiery. So there's one Bal Tshuva that he was literally like he learns all day, non-stop, in yeshiva, has not $1 to his name. If I'm not mistaken, I think this is the same. It might be a different story, it might be the same. This guy once had $100 to his name. And somebody came over, he was on break of the yeshiva, he was going to get something to eat or something. He was in the street, and somebody came over to him crying. He says, listen, I need money, I need this, I'm marrying off this. And literally, he saw it. So what did he do? He took out his $100 and gave him everything. Turned around and went back to yeshiva. This is what he said. He says, as I was walking back to yeshiva, I was passing by a parking lot, I looked down, I saw a $100 bill on the floor. So see, these are people that live completely for God. So listen to what this story. So this guy goes, and his parents came in to visit him from Israel. He was in Muncie, in yeshiva, and his parents came in to visit from Israel. So his parents were visiting, and afterwards they were flying back to Israel. They were flying with a lot of suitcases. He said, listen, let's say his name is Itzik. Itzik, can you please get us a van for tomorrow that, the flight, we have to leave here 5 a.m. Can you please get us a van to get us to the airport with all our luggage? He's like, yeah, don't worry about it. Hashem Yazol. He's like, and his father's like, Itzik, he's like, how like people get nervous, like 3 hours before the flight, they go, Jews usually will come in like 4 minutes before the flight is, with like 4,000 suitcases, we're here, but he goes and he says, listen, with all due respect, I'm sure Hashem is all, but can you make some phone calls? And he's like, Dad, don't worry about it. He's like, well, you'll have a car by tomorrow. I guarantee it. Don't worry about it. So he's like, okay, fine. He wakes up at like 4 a.m. and he's going to go. He decides before he's going to travel, drive his parents to the no car, by the way, still nothing. Right? He went to learn last night. He went to sleep like a baby without any problem. And he wakes up 4 a.m. Thank you very much. He wakes up 4 a.m. to go to drive his parents. Thank you. To drive his parents to the airport, but he still has no van, no car. So he goes to. He decides he's going to go to the mikvah before he goes to drive them. He goes to the mikvah, and after he goes to the mikvah, as he's going out, he sees another guy walking in. And he's like, remembers, like, I need a van. He goes to this guy, 4 a.m., 2 people in the mikvah, and he says, hey, listen, Shmuley, I have to drive my parents to the airport. Do you by any chance have any car, like a van or something? He's like, yeah, sure. And this guy who he spoke to, who was he? Was a car dealer. So he constantly has different cars, and he says, I just bought from the auction yesterday a van to sell. He says, yeah, here you go. Here's the keys, enjoy. What was it? He drives out a van. No sweating, no worries, no nothing. Have complete faith in God. When you have complete faith in God, things are going to happen for you. Things are going to happen, you can see it. The more faith that you have for God, this is one of our tasks at the end of the days. We have to have faith from God. You have to have faith in God that God's going to send you your right one. You have to have faith in God that God's going to send you panasah. Everything comes 100% from God. But when you have faith, you can't be like, listen, I have faith from God, but you don't listen to God. Be like, it comes hand in hand. If you have faith in God, that means you believe in God. If you believe in God, that means you listen to God. But if you have all those, you'll see your life is going to be a different life. People that live in it are more relaxed. Everything is awesome. Everything is fine. Everything is amazing. This is one of our focuses. Our focuses has to be in the end of the days is to strengthen our emunah. We have to strengthen our faith. The more you strengthen it, again, you're going to see tremendous growth. Also, very important. Can't stress this enough. Please, and including myself. I'm speaking to myself. Let us not fool ourselves. Do not ever think that you're good. Let me rephrase that. You're excellent. You're amazing. Do not ever think that you're good enough, that you're good right where you are. You should. I stressed this also last class. You should never think that you're bad. Because if you think you're bad, you'll do bad. You should always think that you're good, but that you could always do more. And when you have the ability that you're learning, let's say, an hour a day, you could say, I could do an hour and 5. You're not learning, you could do that. You're not dressing modestly, you could do a little bit more. You could do something. When you have the strive to do more, you'll be able to accomplish a lot. And B'ezrat Hashem, may we do that. May we actually see the end of this Galut Ishmael and Galut Edom, and we see Mashiach b'mehera b'yameinu. Any questions?
Yeah.
Yes.
Ishmael, they're smart or lucky?
Neither. They have the lucky. I don't like the term lucky, but they have merit. Smart,
They don't look smart, but then sometimes they do things.
They have merit. They have the merit. Yeah. They have the merit. Yeah.
If we're not supposed to trust any of them, why do we make treaties and why do we
Because who makes the treaties? The liberal government. The liberal communist, ish government.
So we can't say no?
We can't. We try. We try to fight against it. We don't want to give lands back to. We have Jewish Bet HaKnesot that we gave back to the Palestinians. We wanted, of course, the religious people didn't want to do that. So we knew already. We're saying this back then. When no one who listens to us. Yeah. B'ezrat Hashem, hopefully, B'ezrat Hashem, very soon everyone's going to be listening to the religious side. But unfortunately, people still think that they have the power. It's IDF, it's this, and we have this, and we're bringing this technology. It's unfortunate. We have to realize that we can only rely on one thing and one thing only.